Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Welcome back. Now, migration to the United Kingdom has opened doors for a lot of Nigerians. But for women, the journey comes with unique struggles. And that leads us to our conversation this morning on Nigerian women in the UK and challenges of keeping their jobs and their marriages. And joining us this morning via Zoom is Tobore Emo. She's a gender advocate and public affairs analyst. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Now, first of all, how would you describe the typical journey of a Nigerian woman settling in the UK in terms of career and also marriage?
It's not an easy transition. Imagine you've lived in a country your whole life, understood its culture and its customs, and then you're moving to a completely new continent, having to adapt to a completely new way of life. It is tough. It's tough for anyone, and it's really tough on the family, and it's also tough in every single area of women's lives, and even the husband affects the families.
All right. How do you balance, maintaining your work life, your marital life with, your career?
It's really tough for a lot of women who move here. Most of the migrants that have come in the last few years have come on a healthcare visa. They've come with their families, and sometimes the husbands, they find it difficult to settle into office type based roles that maybe they were used to back home. And so they end up being either working in a care home as healthcare workers, or they end up working in warehouses. And these jobs are all based on shifts. So you find out that sometimes the women work days, the men work nights. And so couples find it really hard to meet. They're usually just very busy working, taking care of the kids, and then they don't have time for themselves. So it's important that as a family unit, you have to decide that your marriage too is a very important part, and you need to work on it. So you need to actually work on taking out time to spend time together as a couple. It can get quite difficult, but with a lot of planning, it is possible.
Now, we know that cultural expectations from Nigeria sometimes clash with the realities of living abroad. So I'd like you to walk us through, what are the cultural factors that play a role in shaping the experiences of Nigerian women in the UK?
So coming from Nigeria, where typically the man goes to work and is the provider 100%, he doesn't really do chores. Chores are outsourced to people. When you move here as a family, it's completely different lifestyle. The women are expected to contribute to the home financially. Sometimes the men find it easy to pick up the role as helping as a homemaker, helping to support in the home, like doing sweeping, doing the laundry, looking after the kids. But some men struggle, and that has had a great impact on a lot of marriages that have come from Nigeria. Now, the thing is, if your marriage was already struggling in Nigeria, the UK will not make it any better. It's because when they come here, the added pressure of now going to work, both of you now have to work, both of you now have to do chores, both of you now have to do childcare, the cold, and everything else that comes with it. It really affects marriages, and it puts them through a lot of stress. So if the couple are not able to sit, talk together, work things out properly, if there was already a crack, it will become a bigger crack. So it is tough, and marriages do go through it, but some people are able to pull together, remember why they got married in the first place, pull together and come through it stronger.
All right. Apart from the UK, let's go to women in diaspora. What do you think are the factors affecting their development?
Actually, this is a very good place and opportunity for you to develop. There's nothing holding you back here. except maybe childcare, and maybe if you have strife in your home, because with a supportive spouse, there is nothing that can stop you. If your spouse is supportive of you growing, they'll make sure that apart from when you come back from work, you sort out the kids, you're able to still sit down, take those extra courses that you need, do whatever it is that you need to do, and you succeed. And here, a lot of women excel. A lot of women are moving forward, they are developing, they're doing great. So it's important that your spouse supports you in your journey. Both of you have agreed on what it is that you're trying to achieve, and you work together to achieve it. But development here as a woman is very obtainable.
Speaking of development, Nigerian women, generally, they are often highly qualified back here in Nigeria, but when they go abroad, they seem to struggle with securing jobs that match their skills or their qualifications. Why do you think that is so?
Okay, we look at it from two ways. First of all, when you come to the UK, they want you to have UK experience. So that might be the first challenge. Although for some people, they are able to put together their CV properly, and that is not an issue for them. So different people have different struggles. For some others, they have come on a specific visa, and that ties them to a specific role. So when that ends, then they are able to then find roles. But in the meantime, they are preparing. In the time before they are able to then switch, they are preparing themselves to get into a different type of workforce. But the issue is having that UK experience. I think that is the challenge because right now, even in the UK and around the world, a lot of companies are letting go of their staff. There's a lot of job loss. So we have a lot of people on the market, a lot of qualified people on the market. So it's really tough. It's a really tough space right now, just generally, job hunting.
All right. We would like you to walk us through your routine. Why did you take, the road of being a gender advocate, and where has that got you to? How are you helping other women to be like you?
So about 9 years ago, I've been on Facebook for a really long time, and about 9 years ago, I thought about it and said, "Look, I live in the UK. I've lived here since '97, and I thought, what can I do rather than just going online and commenting on people's posts? What can I do to make things better for people back home?" So I started signposting people and helping people, especially women and children who are in abuse. I realized that the systems sometimes they don't know who to turn to, and the systems of support are not really there. So I started helping people. So if a lady says, "Oh, I'm being abused," I find out what state she's in, how I can help her, who I can connect her to, and how she can come out of that. We over the last 9 years, I've rescued quite a lot of women, helped them start up new businesses, helped them move homes, just set them up. For children who have been abused as well, we've helped them get convictions. We've helped, you know, rescue them from those places that they were being tortured. Because child abuse is not okay. Child labor is just not okay. And we need people to do more. The other thing I noticed was a lot of people were scared to report it directly because of fear of repercussions. So I would say to them, "Look, I would report it on your behalf. Give me all the information, the name, the address, everything." So I'm that middle person that helps people report these cases when they are scared to do it themselves. And I'm happy each time a child is rescued from labor, from abuse. I'm happy every time a lady is empowered. I use my Facebook space as well to talk about these things, about how women need to have some self-esteem. The way we're brought up just to think only about marriage and about service. But at a point, you have to learn that you matter. And it's important that marriage is not the be all and end all, but it's important you get it right. So it's not about getting married just to get married, but making sure you're getting married to the right person so that both of you can grow and create a beautiful family together.
You've mentioned some challenges when it comes to childcare, juggling childcare and work and other things. What role would you say that things like community organizations or some women support group or something, what role do they play when it comes to helping women cope with all these responsibilities that they have?
So community is vital. It's very, very important. Remember, you're coming to a country now. In this country, people have their parents, their grandparents, their cousins, but you have none of that. You're coming alone with your husband, your kids. You need to find your community. You need to find your tribe, and not just one community. You can be in as many communities as you need to be. And these communities, these are places that you can meet people who are in the same situation as you. You can help each other with childcare. So in my group, Nigerian women in the UK, we encourage the women to speak to other women in your area. We have Telegram groups based on location. We have 14 across the UK. So you go in there and you say, okay, I live in London. And then another mom that lives in London looking to share childcare. So you are able to kind of work around your shifts together. I have I've moved to Manchester 2 years ago, and I have a community around me. If I'm not able to make it to pick my kids up from school, I have a friend I can call and say, please pick up my kids, or her husband. So it's important that you build a community around you to support you, because you cannot do this alone. It's going to be really tough. Something has to give. So if you want to have a career, you want to raise your kids, you want to have a good life, be able to afford what's good for them, then you need to have that supportive community around you. And it also helps the kids if they have need someone to talk to, if they're going through something, bullying or something at school. There's an auntie they can speak to if they're not comfortable speaking to their parents. So support groups, community is very vital. I cannot underemphasize that.
All right. A lot of people believe that Africans copy and they copy wrongly. So when it comes to marriages, a lot of people still believe that the law favors women more than the men. You will see cases of divorce, property share, and having issues with having the children in custody. What would you say are the factors influencing these issues when it comes to marriages?
I think the law is fair. If the woman is going to keep the kids, then there needs to be a roof over their heads. The woman needs to have the finances to be able to look after the kids. It's also here, if the man takes the kids, the woman pays the man to look after the kids, because whoever has the children needs to have a roof over their head. They need to be able to feed the kids, clothe the kids. So I believe that the law is fair in regards to that. Now, in Nigeria, it is slightly different. Um, we know how things work, and sometimes the law is not always fair to the women. But it's important that the man takes a step back, even though you're annoyed, even though you're unhappy, even though the marriage has crashed. It takes a really good person to think about the welfare of the kids over the anger they have towards the woman. Okay, so for me, I believe that couples, men and women, should think about the children first. What is best for your kids? What's best for their mental health? The marriage hasn't worked, fine. Not everything is meant to work. But how can we come together and make sure that we raise these children and they still feel the love from both parents? And at this point, I'd like to say people should stop kidnapping the kids, and run away. It's not fair on the kids. You're putting the children through so much that they don't need to. They didn't ask to be born, they didn't ask to be brought into this. So if you have an issue with each other, deal with it, but don't involve the kids.
Great. Now, aside from handling the family and the work as well, many Nigerian women, when they move to the UK, they have these high hopes and expectations, and sometimes when they get there, they are faced with unexpected realities and things don't look the way they had it in their mind. I'd like to know, maybe from your experience or from the experiences of the women around you, what would you say are some of the biggest surprises or culture shocks that Nigerian women encounter when they first try to settle in the diaspora?
It's understanding the systems, the way things work, the way finances work is completely different. Understanding the people you're working with. A lot of them don't understand the culture and how people behave. Sometimes when somebody asks you how are you, they start telling them everything. They don't really want to know everything. And sometimes it's not the best to talk too much about yourself at work, which a lot of people don't realize on time, and that can cause a whole lot of issues. It's the fact that you now have to juggle childcare. It's the fact you have to wake up so early in the morning and it's really cold and you really don't want to get out of bed. It's the fact that um, you have to. It's just a complete change. It's not. You think coming to the UK, life is easy. that's what we all hear. Ah, abroad is easy, money is everywhere. But when you come here, the reality that it's not that easy. Making a pound is really tough. You're thinking you just send money home, and you're realizing, no, actually, I've not paid this bill, I've not paid that bill, I've not paid this loan. So it's the shock of the whole thing. It's not as rosy as people paint it to be. And so it's waking up to that realization and understanding that things are really difficult, they're different. I don't fully understand it. How do I cope with this, with what I'm going through?
All right. What do you think are the most significant cultural, societal barriers that Nigerian women in the UK face regarding to employment and relationships?
I think it's understanding that things are really different and making sure that they are able to cope. I find that the women cope better than the men, and so that's where the struggle comes in. I've had a few stories from my community where the man and the woman, they are both picking shifts at the same time, and they're leaving young kids at home alone, and then social services comes and takes those kids. The woman says, "Oh, I've booked my shift. My husband has booked the same shift. He knew I had the shift, but he booked it because we are both trying to send money home." And then they just leave the kids at home alone, young as 3, as young as 5. And then when they are crying, neighbors call the police, and then they take the kids. Then the women are left trying to fight to get the kids back, while the men, I've had a few men say, "Oh, I can just go get another child somewhere." And so they leave these women to fight the battles themselves. So women don't understand the battles that they're going to face. And here, unlike Nigeria, where if you just beg somebody, I beg, I beg, I beg, they'll let it go. It doesn't work that way. Here, they don't hear I beg. So it's really tough just understanding that it's a completely different thing. If you break the rules, you've broken it. Nobody's going to hear I'm sorry or I didn't know. You cannot say I didn't know. You have to find out what the rules are of this country, and then you have to abide by them. And that's another thing that I find people struggle with, our women struggle with. Um, so it's important that you realize and find out what the rules are where you're moving to, and make sure that you have plans in place to make sure you can abide by those rules. Because if things go wrong due to situations, it's really tough. We've had a lot of families lose their young kids because they've left them home alone, or the kids have gone to school and said they were smart or something. So it's really important that you understand the community you're going into, the country, the rules, and the things that go on there, so that you're able to settle in properly.
All right. A lot of people say that when Nigerians travel, they get so much engrossed with, the Western culture and their way of life. And there has been cases of divorce amongst Nigerian couples in the UK. I want to understand, what do you think are the major causes of these divorce cases?
So I said this earlier. I said if your marriage already had a crack in Nigeria, it's most likely will become worse in the UK, because there's a lot of extra pressures. Things are not the way they were back home. The husband is not the 100% provider. Right here in the UK, the husband has to dig in. He has to sweep. He has to wash dishes. He has to cook. He has to look after the kids. And most men fight against that. They have this ego or pride where they think, oh, that's not for me. But if they don't contribute and do that, it will not work. Because the woman will find that she's the one waking up in the morning, getting the kids ready for school, taking them to school, going to work, coming back, cooking, cleaning. She will just collapse. It's too much. No one person can do everything by herself. In Nigeria, you have maids, you have cleaners, you have drivers. In here, you are everything. You become the plumber, you become the electrician, you become everything to your children. So the issue is the men sometimes find it difficult to cope with the change, and then they take it out on the women and on the family life. So when you come here as a man and a woman, you have to be more involved with your family. In Nigeria, if you ask the men who's your child's best friend, they don't know. But if you most likely ask a man here, he would know, because he's very much involved. Now, this is the issue. When some men come here, they do not want to hear anything. They do not, like in my community, a lot of the women that I've dealt with, the men just don't want to work together. And so I asked, were there issues back home? Yes, there were issues back home, and that's what continued. But the ones that were having a loving relationship back home, they come here and the men and the women, they continue in that loving relationship, but they realize they have to make adjustments. They discuss the adjustments and they work together, they compromise. So it's very important that if you're coming here, you understand that things have changed. The roles would have changed. And so you need to understand the culture and then work with that. And it's important that families thrive. A lot of families are thriving just as much as families are breaking up. But the most important thing is that you remember why you married this person in the first place. You remember the love that brought you together and let that love take you through. I've spoken to a man. There was a couple that had an issue, and I spoke to the man. And even though I spoke to him respectfully, I told him to think about it. I told him to think about the marriage, looking after the kids, but he was very adamant. You could just tell that there was nothing anyone was going to say to him. What he thought was the law, and that was it. And he was ready to argue till the end. But he just didn't want to understand that he needs to also make some compromise for the family, and so that they can work together and do great things. Because a family that's bound together, that works together, they can achieve anything that they put their mind to. So it's important that you work together as a couple.
All right. Thank you so much, Tobore. Because of time, I think we'll draw the curtains here. But I actually wanted to ask you why Nigerian women somehow use UK laws to fight men that bring them over to the UK, and how that turns out. But then, because of time, we'll have to end it here. Thank you so much, Tobore and Emel, for joining us on Signature Morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that is where we draw the curtain this morning on that particular conversation. Do stay with us because more conversation is coming your way.
Get plugged into the heartbeat of entertainment on The Hub, your ultimate